Coach Sully, Reps and Sweat Martial Arts and Fitness. This is Mat Chat. So today, I wanted to talk about Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the importance of knowing Jiu-Jitsu if you want to be serious about self-defense, particularly for women. So just to give you a little history on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu started in Brazil by the Gracie family. They basically learned judo from a Japanese judoka, and Helio Gracie, the smallest of the Gracie brothers, made modifications to the techniques so that the techniques worked for him because he was smaller framed and smaller than the rest of the brothers. So they created, or I would say developed, a fighting style that uses leverage and technique to overcome power and strength. The thing that makes Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu unique in comparison to a lot of the other grappling arts, the wrestling, the judo, even the catch wrestling, the American catch wrestling, what makes it different is that most of those grappling arts really emphasize top position. They prioritize top position. And understandably so, because bottom position, you are seriously disadvantaged just from gravity. But the Gracies, they focused on the bottom position. And the reason why I believe that was such a unique and important thing is that it trained you for the worst scenario, the worst case that you could ever be in, particularly in a self-defense situation, is to be on bottom with somebody bigger than you on top of you. And they put a large majority of their focus on that. So they ended up developing some really awesome techniques from that aspect. And they ended up getting really, really good from the bottom. I remember the first time I was exposed to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was watching some of the earlier UFCs. I didn't catch it exactly in 93 when the tournament dropped. I probably saw it in about 95. After those initial, I think it was 1, 2, 3, and 4, after those tournaments had been done, and I went to Blockbusters with some friends and we bought the tapes, and my friends were like, you got to check out this Royce Gracie guy. And he was in these tournaments with these pretty big, pretty tough guys. There were kickboxers, karate experts, all kinds of different disciplines. And here comes little 170-pound Royce Gracie with his oversized gi on, and he was just dragging people to the ground and choking them out, getting them in arm bars, choking them, using his gi to fight against his opponents. It was something like I'd never seen before. So from that time on, I got really, really interested in learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, why is that important for self-defense, and why is that important particularly for women's self-defense? Well, women, if you're in a self-defense situation, it is highly likely that the person that's either assaulting you or kidnapping you, whatever the scenario may be, it's highly likely that that person is going to be significantly bigger than you. It's highly likely that your maybe punches or kicks are not going to cause the damage that you need to in order to stop this person that's significantly larger than you. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is going to be an important skill set to have because it teaches you how to even the odds. It teaches you how to overcome those disadvantages, those size disadvantages. It basically shows its practitioners how to, first of all, how to make an inherently bad position, which is the bottom, on the ground, how to make that position actually a position of offense. How to, if the person on top doesn't know what you know, if they don't know and understand the ground, they will actually be in a disadvantaged situation. It teaches you the hierarchy of position. It teaches you how to control position, even from the top. It takes away a person's ability to generate force, because that's what happens when you're punching, pushing, kicking. You're generating force, and in order to generate that force, you need to be planted on the ground in order to generate the force. It takes that opportunity away from the bigger person, and you, in essence, even the playing field by taking the thing that gives them their advantage, by taking that away from them. So you have a much more superior understanding and feel in grappling situations. And these are all areas that, if you didn't know jiu-jitsu, you would be highly in a disadvantage. Grappling situations on the ground, any kind of tussling, grabbing. These are all ways that an attacker, a criminal, will try to impose themselves on you. And when you come into a situation or find yourself in a situation like that, you're able to overcome their size, their strength. You understand position, and you can manipulate position so you can come out on top and ultimately be able to escape. Also, what jiu-jitsu does is it teaches you how to use, through technique, how to use a larger muscle group against smaller limbs. So, for example, you take a 220-pound guy, his arm against a 130-pound woman, there's no contest. There's no comparison. His arm is multiple times stronger than her arm. But if you put her entire core, her legs, her whole body against that arm, then her body is stronger than his arm. And that's what jujitsu teaches you. It teaches you how to incorporate a larger muscle group and use it to manipulate a smaller muscle group. You can, in essence, use your whole body to break a shoulder, to break an elbow, to choke. So it's a very, very, very useful skill to have for any, particularly woman, that is serious about being able to defend herself. It's the great equalizer. And I have seen it. I tell people this story all the time. I've been doing jujitsu for maybe about 25 years now. And the most pressure that I've ever felt of somebody on top of me was from an 140-pound woman. And that's because she understood leverage. She understood exactly where to apply that pressure. She had put all of her pressure, all of her weight's pressure on my carotid artery. And it was to the point where I, without noticing, and luckily we were training partners, so she wasn't really trying to hurt me. But before I'd even noticed how much pressure she was putting, well, first of all, it wasn't that much pressure. It wasn't necessary for her to put a crazy amount of pressure. She just knew where to apply it. But before I could even realize that she was applying pressure to my carotid artery, I was almost to the point of passing out. So again, it's very, very, very useful. Very useful. It is the most useful skill set that you can have to prepare you for a self-defense situation. Women and men. When I was coming up, we would always tell the big guys, so that, hey, if you guys learn how to, and I was in the big guy category, but they would tell us that, hey, if you learn little man jujitsu, you'll be unstoppable. So, and then also there are advantages in jujitsu in being smaller. A smaller person is harder to control. A smaller person can find little pockets that they can move. A smaller person is harder to hold down. A smaller person has a lot more energy. They're hard to keep up with. So you can, like I said before, use something that is inherently a disadvantage, which is your size, and turn it into a superpower and even the odds. But I'll leave you guys with this, and this is for my ladies. You might not be able to generate enough power with your fists to knock out a 250-pound man, but everybody chokes the same. Keep that in mind. All right, guys. Coach Sully, Reps and Sweat Martial Arts and Fitness. This was Matt Chat.